And I know this ain't a rally, but FNMs? FNMs? Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for being at 144 Mackey Street. As I said before, I'm S.H.I.E.L.D, your Secretary General. I'm just going to ask you to do one thing for me right now, one thing for us. If you have your mobile, your cellular telephone, please turn it on silent. If you don't know how to turn it on silent, turn it off. If you don't know how to turn it off, turn to somebody and ask them to help you. So please, let us turn our cell phones on silent or off. We're thankful that we have members of the Fourth Estate here today. Give it up for our journalists in the House. We have so many persons who are here from so many different associations. We have members of our parliamentary caucus. We have persons who are definitely with us on our live stream, and we want them to share, to comment, and to like our live stream. And ladies and gentlemen, we have our deputy leader, Mr. Shannon Cartwright, in the House. And we have the leader of the Free National Movement, Mr. Michael Clifton Pintard, in the House. Ladies and gentlemen, our press conference will run this way. Our leader will address the media and those of us present and the Bahamas. Thereafter, our leader will take questions with regard to the topic, the purpose of this press conference today, immigration. And so we're going to confine those questions to the topic of immigration today. And so, without further ado, the leader of the Free National Movement, Mr. Michael Clifton Pintard.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Bahamians tuned in online, and of course, members of the media. I stand before you today with a clear and urgent message that we have to protect the sovereignty of the Bahamas. Our borders must be defended, and our immigration system must be restored to fairness, order, and rule of law. The truth is that this is a situation that has developed over many years. Uncontrolled and illegal immigration threatens the very foundation of our national security, strains vital public services, and put our national identity at risk. It burdens clinics, overcrowds classrooms, worsens housing shortages, and stretches already limited resources. Every Bahamian feels the weight of this, from longer lines to fewer opportunities to a growing sense that we are losing control of our future. This is not a theory. It is a lived reality of thousands of Bahamians. It is the consequence of a government, in this case, that has failed to secure our border and enforce the laws already on the books. The truth is that today, we are all here with a commitment to fix our broken immigration system, to restore integrity, fairness, and order at a time when too many Bahamians feel anxious, overlooked, and unheard. This is not about any one nationality group. Let us be clear. But it is true that Haitian migrants and others who reside in the Bahamas illegally have posed a serious challenge for the country. But there are many, Haitian as well as other migrants, who reside in the Bahamas illegally and contribute in meaningful ways to our communities. And those persons deserve dignity and respect. But the current immigration system that we have is clearly broken. It's politicized, it's mismanaged, and it is wide open for abuse. This government has had ample opportunity to act. As chairman of the Immigration Board, the Prime Minister bears full responsibility for the crisis we now face. Every major decision around status, permits, and enforcement ultimately falls to him and his cabinet. 2 years ago, this government promised a full review of how immigration decisions are made after clear violations of the Bahamas Nationality Act came to light. That promise remains unfulfilled. No report as promised, no transparency, and no reform. This raises a serious concern. We have reached out to this government on multiple occasions, press conferences, meetings, private letters. And nevertheless, they have failed to act or be transparent. There is still, after many questions asked, even in Parliament, there is still no accountability. What's worse is this administration has become quite dismissive of the questions that Bahamians continue to ask. The attitude of this administration has shown that they have very little concerns for the anxieties and fears of the Bahamian people. They refuse to acknowledge or address the troubling rise in immigration-related irregularities, including the unexplained surge in NIB cards being issued, reports of passports being presented by persons who are unable to communicate clearly. They have dismissed these concerns, and we simply say to them that when your population is anxious, is fearful, is outraged, you have a duty to respond, to provide explanations that speak to those concerns. The truth is, whether it's NIB cards or passports or voters' registration cards, while some may be for legitimate purposes, the question is, are all of them in that category? The government has a duty to explain what is happening. To stay silent is not only irresponsible, it is disrespectful. A government that ignores its people cannot be trusted to lead. And the backlog we see of matters related to immigration continues to grow. Over 10,000 immigration and work permit cases remain unresolved. Allegations of bribery and interference continue to emerge, and Bahamians have lost faith that the system is being run fairly and lawfully. Things have become so dysfunctional, so unregulated, so open to corruption that in our discussion as parliamentarians, our subcommittee looking at the immigration matters, we listened to many of you and we considered that we ought to immediately call for a moratorium on citizenship and residency application. However, we do not believe that would be entirely fair to those long outstanding matters that deserve legitimate attention. But we have to be firm in scrutinizing every single one of these categories. And we have said that we intend, when we become the government, to carry out an investigation examining how citizenship, permanent residency, and many of the work permits are presently being issued. Our calls for reform are not new. We in the Free National Movement have been sounding the alarm for years. We've demanded the creation of a select committee to investigate not just political interference, but the range of issues related to the cross-border movement of persons from other countries illegally. Every member of the Progressive Liberal Party in the House of Assembly voted against the call for a select committee so that government officials could be assisted by other experts and others in this society to get to the bottom of this crisis. We've highlighted documented cases of deported individuals returning illegally to the Bahamas, only later to be granted status without any legal basis to apply. We expose cases where undocumented individuals were approved for residency while still in detention, bypassing all legal requirements. We've also called out incidences where individuals were found to be residing in the Bahamas illegally for extended periods, in one case over a year, and yet rather than them face consequence, they were arrested, and on the intervention of at least 2 ministers, they were released, and within a matter of days, they were regulated and could continue to work with a bona fide Bahamian work permit. No accountability and no answers. And we have done all that we have done, the demonstrations, the press conferences, and the questions raised in the House, because we believe that our system ought to be corrected. We ought to have a strong and a fair system, one that respects the rule of law. No one should be allowed to manipulate the system, not the many consultants, not any politician, no one with influence who are known in this society to exploit the loopholes in our immigration system should be allowed to continue to go unchecked. Today, we are unveiling a national mission to restore trust, uphold the law, and protect the sovereignty of our country. Because when the rule of law breaks down, so does the promise of equal protection for every citizen. Under my leadership, an FNM government will launch Operation S.H.I.E.L.D, an acronym that makes our priorities crystal clear. We will, in the first instance, secure our land and end illegal occupation. Let me speak plainly about an issue that has been ignored for far too long: the illegal occupation of Bahamian land. Now, this is not a new issue. This has straddled successive administrations. So for those who wish to ask, what will you do differently and why should you trust us? We have new leadership with a new focus on improving not just what was missed by the FNM, but those things that were missed by previous FNM administrations. Across this country, from New Providence to our family islands, public land is being used after having been seized by those persons who have felt free to build upon without permission. Private property is also being overtaken by squatters, and then sometimes with the permission of Bahamians who are profiting from those unregulated developments. Entire unregulated communities are emerging with no regards to our laws, no respect for planning or sanitation codes, and no consequence from those in charge. Even in cases where you see bulldozers moving through selected unregulated developments, or what many Bahamians call shanty towns, only a few miles away, new communities are being built while one is being demolished. Just recently, you would have heard the Member of Parliament from South Abaco make the point, while the government is boasting about its accomplishment, its own members are saying that the government has to get a handle on new communities that are emerging. This is a crisis of law and order and national development, and the Free National Movement will not allow it to continue. We will act decisively to protect both public and private land. We will not allow public land to be overrun especially. We will not stand by while foreigners claim what does not belong to them. And we will not allow scarce land resources to be stolen from the people who it's meant to benefit. Yeah. But let me quickly say, at the same time, we must hold Bahamian land owners accountable when they enable or profit from unregulated developments on private property. Too many have turned a blind eye to building codes, health regulations, and immigration status so long as they are getting paid. What is also true is that there are some, under the guise of pushing back against illegal occupation, who themselves have begun to illegally occupy lands that do not belong to them. We are committed to ensuring that Bahamians benefit from their land through a proper regulated system of making Crown land available to Bahamians. But we have to define the terms and then make the necessary decisions. Bahamian lands surely must be used to build Bahamian communities. Communities that are safe, lawful, and planned for the benefit of all of our people, and those who have cast their lot with us and have done so the right way. Land must support national development, whether through housing, business investment, or community infrastructure, not irregular settlements that operate outside the law. And so under our administration, we will launch a national audit of land occupation on public land and pursue swift legal action to remove illegal developments. We will amend the law to ensure that private landowners are supported in reclaiming their property where illegal communities have taken root. And where owners fail to act, the government will intervene and recover costs from those owners. The law must allow the government to move quickly and judiciously to stop unregulated developments from taking root and to remove those that presently exist. The FNM has had a history of being humane in the way in which we have addressed this issue in the past. One of our concerns with respect to the Progressive Liberal Party, it does appear that immigration is being used for political purposes. And the truth is, we believe for many of their consultants for personal benefit. We will strengthen enforcement of existing laws, including the provision under the Immigration Act that prohibits the harboring of undocumented individuals on any property. We should not, as a country, seek to demonize everyone with a different background. We should, however, be very careful to send a message to those Bahamians who have long been engaged in human trafficking, that we will address them and the problems that they have created when we come to government by holding them accountable and making sure they feel the full weight of our laws. And we will introduce a permanent enforcement and education strategy to ensure Bahamians understand their rights, their responsibilities, and the legal consequences of violating land laws. This is about protecting the future. Unregulated communities compromise sanitation, public health, and environmental safety. They undermine urban renewal, destroy planning efforts, and fuel the rise in substandard housing that put lives at risk. A country without land discipline cannot develop with dignity, and we'll fix it. I want to talk a moment about heightened surveillance. It is an issue that the government has boasted about having made progress in. We have yet to see the report documenting the success that they wish the public to believe they have had. The FNM will strengthen maritime patrols with our regional and U.S. partners to secure our borders. And it is important to note that our borders are not just the marine environment. It appears that more persons are violating our laws in recent times, walking straight through the airport. We believe that there's a need for a coordinated approach that will deter organized smuggling networks, protect lives, and secure our borders without disrupting legitimate maritime activity. We will also deploy more Defense Force personnel and resources to the critical southeastern corridor to strengthen patrols and secure our borders. A future free national movement government will also move swiftly to activate the Immigration Reservist Body, already legislated but never implemented. This corps will be composed of qualified, trained, and community-rooted Bahamians from every family island who will support our overburdened immigration department. These reservists will serve as the eyes and ears of national security in their local communities, because no one knows the rhythm of an island better than the people who live there. When unfamiliar movements or individuals appear or unregulated developments begin, those residents can step up and speak up. And by equipping them with the proper authority and training, we will strengthen our national response from the ground up. This initiative will relieve the pressures that presently exist on our immigration officers. It would create employment opportunities for Bahamians and ensure that every island has active and capable personnel enforcing the law. It is a proactive and practical step towards building a security framework that is both community-centered and nationally driven. But our vigilance will not stop there. We have a serious concern that demands answers. And under the last FNM administration, all commercial flights to Haiti was suspended until clear systems were in place to document and track every foreign national arriving in the Bahamas. That was done to protect our sovereignty, enforce our laws, and restore order to the border. Today, however, it has come to our attention that Bahamas Air and at least 2 other airlines are traveling to Haiti and now operating, in some cases, 3 flights weekly. 3 jet flights between the Bahamas and Haiti with no clear system of tracking or follow-up for those who lawfully enter our country. The question is, do we have a good sense on whether or not those persons who are coming in are all coming in with the correct status, and are they leaving at the time when they ought to? This should not be confined to any one country, because our brothers and sisters to the south are not the only ones that are coming and staying or using the Bahamas as a transit point to go north. We were told that there is no structured record keeping in place to ensure that these individuals return home when their stay expires. Instead, far too many are reappearing days or weeks later with sponsorship letters in hand, applying for work permits that they are not lawfully entitled to pursue while in the country. Let me remind the government, the law clearly states that first-time work permit applicants must apply from outside the Bahamas, not after arrival. Not only not after arrival, not after finding a sponsor from outside. That's where the applications ought to be made. If this administration has changed the policy, we are asking the Prime Minister today, the Bahamian people ought to get an explanation. Have you made adjustments in the policy? If this is a breach of law, the Bahamian people deserve accountability. Either way, the silence of this government is unacceptable, and we will not allow the system to continue that quietly circumvents, bypasses our immigration laws behind closed doors. The S.H.I.E.L.D. addresses the issue of investigating political abuse. No policymaker, no consultant associated with them should be given treatment as if they are above the law. A change in government alone, we know, will not fix all that is broken. But I can tell you there are some things that will happen immediately. The Free National Movement is committed to restoring order and trust. And we said in Parliament when we introduced the resolution for a select committee on immigration that we believe not only government officials elected and appointed are adequate to address this issue. That is why we call for select committee. So we can call persons and we can call for papers. And we can use even those persons who have been incarcerated for circumventing our laws. Provide them with some degree of protection so they can tell us who are carrying out the treasonous activities in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Who are they paying? Who have they paid? And so we believe that it is important to establish this select committee so that Bahamian citizens are able to share information. Illegal migrants, either in the Bahamas or those that have been repatriated, can share information so that we are able to fix this broken system. To discover who is responsible for the irregularities and the corruption that has plagued our immigration process. We believe real change comes from transparency and accountability and collaboration. And this committee will include voices beyond Parliament, law enforcement officers, experts, and even those who have violated the system in the past. We know that this government is deathly afraid of losing power. And we believe it's because there's far too many things that we will discover once we take charge once again. So we wish to say to many Bahamians who are afraid of the Progressive Liberal Party, do not fear this government. Their time is short. Their reach is limited. We will establish a government whistleblower hotline to expose the corruption, the misconduct, and the political interference in immigration matters. Until that is established, until that system is established, and that system would have clear legal protection, offer rewards to encourage individuals to come forward, until that system is established, there are ways you can get the information to us. You could call us, you could text us, you could drop it in a garbage bin that we have access to, but we would love to have that information. We know that the Prime Minister is more concerned about how the information gets out rather than the information getting out. I would remind you that when the recent Director of Immigration, we believe, was forced out, the Prime Minister was more concerned about how the letter that went to the former Minister Bell made it in the public domain. Under a Free National Movement government, we will not be preoccupied how information gets out if that information is about a broken system supported by people who do not have the country's interests at heart. What we need are the facts. on the truth. The PLP, on the other hand, wants you to be fearful of telling the truth and providing the facts. We are available. Please, by all means, provide us with more information. Whistleblowers will be granted full immunity from prosecution, and safeguards will be put in place against victimization, retaliation, or dismissal. Once again, the Immigration Department has been plagued with the top management coming under tremendous attack by this administration. Not just the person that resigned, the next person in charge also faced the same kind of victimization. These guarantees, we believe, should be codified in law to ensure confidence in the process and to send a clear message to those who speak the truth so that they know they will be protected. Once the Select Committee is put in place, we must go a step further. We will establish a permanent independent oversight board for immigration, one that is inclusive, transparent, and cross-sectoral. All that means is we do not believe it should only be populated by government officials representing both the government and the opposition, but that the private sector, civil society, should have representation to the extent that at least 50+% of the board should come from civil society. This board holds huge potential for us finally ensuring that in every area of law enforcement, we have some civilian oversight involved. The board will be mandated to ensure that at all times that immigration decisions are being made consistent with the law. It will issue its formal reports directly to Parliament and will be empowered to report abuses of the law to the relevant agencies for recourse. And unlike the PLP, we will not pass legislation to introduce oversight bodies or important positions like the Ombudsman and not bring it into force and properly fund them so that they are able to do their job. We will put the resources so that they can function appropriately. The Bahamian people must see themselves in the institutions that govern them. And immigration is not just a legal issue, it is a social issue, a national security issue, an economic issue. Immigration decisions must always reflect the best interests of the Bahamian people and earn their trust. E, end unfairness and enforce stronger penalties. Nothing drives the message home like people paying the price or facing consequences for behaving badly. And so let me be clear. Under an FNM administration, anyone who enters the Bahamas illegally will never obtain citizenship. We will address the crisis of unresolved immigration cases, but as we address the backlogs, we believe it is even more important to address the many suspicious applications that are being presented now. The truth is, and I tell you something that touched me this morning. I got a note from a very good friend who shared with me a story of a Bahamian who is of Haitian descent. On the point our brother whose 4 parents were born in Haiti was making, he says that Bahamians have to appreciate that those of us of Haitian descent, we have a problem with unchecked immigration as well. Because we know folks who have been waiting for years for their matter, legitimate matters to be addressed. But we can see persons who have just arrived but have the right connections and their matters are being resolved. And that resonated with me because I believe that the Free National Movement, that we have long understood, that we are not interested in being the far right, which is to give the impression that every single problem in the country came from an immigrant. Nor are we on the far left, where the government seem to be, where immigration decisions are being made for political benefit or personal benefit. We believe that we must firmly, without apology, without fear or favor, enforce the laws of the Bahamas while at the same time demonstrating our humanity. And we don't apologize for it. Just recently, we became aware of the sharp rise in applications that are extremely suspicious. When you have a steep increase in applications for work permits, and those work permits are being sought by persons who are between 18 to 25, whose stated income does not suggest at all that they are in a position to fund the number of persons that they are seeking to hire, it raises very serious concerns. But it's not age specific. There are other categories of Bahamians who are applying, and when you drill down on the investigation, you discover that they cannot produce for you who the persons are that they are getting these work permits for. If you can find someone today that has work permits in advance of identifying who the people are, I want to tell you we have a serious problem. If I were to survey persons in this room, a number of you can tell us what the rates are if you're assisting someone with a work permit, with a permanent residency, or with a citizenship, because you've heard the story told over and over by persons who are in the know. If we have heard it, surely the chairman of the Immigration Board has heard it. The Minister of National Security and the Minister with responsibility for immigration has heard it. And so while clearing the backlog to deal with legitimate cases of requests, we are focused on the sharp rise in applications that we believe are fraudulent. The Free National Movement government will close these loopholes. We will raise the financial bar for sponsors. The current $1,000 bond is no longer adequate. We will significantly increase that amount to reflect the true cost of ensuring accountability. If you sponsor someone, you must prove that you can support them fully and face real penalties if you abuse this privilege. We will prosecute any public officer or elected official who facilitates the illegal granting of status. If you issue documents unlawfully, bypass proper procedures, or manipulate the system for personal or political gain, you will be held accountable. To further strengthen the enforcement and reduce illegal entry, we will establish a Haiti-specific task force, which is simply designed to ensure that persons who are applying, that is, if you're an employer and you're applying to bring persons in from Haiti, it is important for us to do the vetting using the relevant government departments that will help us accomplish that. That should really be done in the country where those potential workers are coming from. So once law and order is restored, we wish to move swiftly. We admonish this government to move swiftly, to do comprehensive vetting in order to deal with the applications and to determine who's fraudulently seeking to bring persons in. We must streamline the legitimate applications and protect our national security and address the humanitarian needs of those who genuinely qualify for protection. We've said before, fraudulent documents, those persons who are responsible for them ought to be prosecuted, Bahamian or foreign. Let me say that we must limit a number of the approvals. The FNM will provide priority and efficient support for migrants who follow the rule. I want to say to everyone, we welcome those persons who come to the Bahamas the correct way, through the front door. We are prepared to collaborate with our regional partners and U.S. Homeland Security in order to make sure that our vetting process is sound and we know exactly who's entering our borders. We will not tolerate political interference. Many of you here would remember the contract days when some of our aunts, uncles, grandparents, etc., went to the U.S. to work. Surely we are smart enough to set up a legal system that where we do have deficits in labor, that we are able to bring persons in on a defined basis without displacing Bahamians at the blue or white collar level. That's what we aim to do. But our work must always be guided by transparency, coordination, and using the digital tools that are available to us. Remember, I said the new acronym for us is S.H.I.E.L.D. We end this by saying that there is a need for us to disclose data. So D is for disclosing data. The PLP is not big on that. That's why the Freedom of Information Act has not yet been implemented under them. The FNM will publish the long overdue report on citizenship, residency, and immigration applications. Let me remind folks whose memory may be short that we held 2 peaceful demonstrations outside of the Immigration Department on Hawkins Hill and East Bay Street. We wrote the Prime Minister. We raised questions in the House of Assembly. We held a town meeting and press conferences. Under pressure, the Prime Minister shuffled his cabinet and moved the Minister of Immigration to another ministry. My understanding is you could move a person, but boy, the influence could stretch far. Despite all of that, the Prime Minister, who at the time promised a report, I believe that was 2023. To date, we still have not seen that report. We asked the chairman of the Immigration Board, Prime Minister, publish the report. Failure to do so strongly suggests that you have found out that your administration has been engaged in illegal, unethical activities, and that you are unprepared to take the necessary action. And so for that reason, you continue to withhold the report. All of us in here, and we pray for a resolution for that alert. Every time I hear it, you know, I think of I think of my own child. You know, so it's a very serious time that we are in the country. Let me finally say, the FNM is focused on the job we need to do. The Bahamas has 2 types of people, those that follow the law and those that don't. And if you play by the rules, we are prepared to work with you. If you do not play by the rules, we see no reason why you should enjoy the many opportunities that exist in this country. Your interest in improving your life is not lost on us. We are sympathetic to persons who are trying to find a way to help their family survive. We believe there is a right way to do that. And we are prepared to support in a number of ways initiatives in different countries at the international level to improve conditions in the countries from where many of the migrants come. But we are not in a position to absorb the volume that we have been experiencing. And so today's press conference is to serve notice that we are prepared to work with local and international partners to strengthen our borders, to put in place systems in our law, to deal with both Bahamians and others who decide to circumvent the laws of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This country is crying out for solutions. The Free National Movement today has come to report for duty to help you put those solutions in place. The floor is now open for questions.
Danielle Miller from our News.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi. My question is on naturalization. This affects thousands of young people across the country. Recently, my apologies. Recently, there was revealed that there are variations when it comes to the law on citizenship. How does your administration plan to address the naturalization issue?
So this is one of the matters in a previous press conference, we addressed the issue because the question was asked, what about children born to foreign citizens who have at some point come to the country illegally? That's correct? You're referring to this issue?
No. This issue, let me stand again. This issue is referring to a child where one of their parents is Bahamian.
Yes.
And now they have to go through a naturalization process. In the past, the law, what was told was, your mother, you take on the citizenship of your mother. But it has since been revealed that there are different variations of that law where at least if one of your parents is Bahamian, you can have Bahamian citizenship. So how do you plan on addressing that issue? Because as it stands right now, depending on what the Privy Council rules from that case, it still is whatever your mother is, that's what you are.
So I'll say two things. Well, first, I'd like to also invite Darren Henfield and Michael Abandon-Ellis from our caucus to address it in detail. But the Free National Movement fundamentally believes that Bahamian women and men should both be able to pass on citizenship to their children, single or married.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Michael might be able to speak to you more directly about the ruling from Justice Winder, which indicated that the law, as it refers to a man and a woman when it comes to childhood and childbearing, is the same. That ruling was upheld by the Privy Council in a recent decision issued by Justice Winder. By now, this government should be approving citizenship for those who request on the basis that their mother may have been a foreigner or unmarried, a Bahamian unmarried, but had a child who is entitled to Bahamian citizenship. That is the law, upheld by a recent ruling sent to the Privy Council by Justice Winder, which we believe is good law.
So the thing that we're waiting to see and that the government has promised to deliver is the test and the policy for those persons born to Bahamian fathers who weren't married to their mothers so that they can apply for citizenship, because the issue is how do you prove paternity? And there's no provision in the law for that right now. And if you look at the statements made by the Minister for Immigration, those are the kinks that they say that they're still trying to work out. But it's been years and this is not a novel issue. And so they're far too late on the subject.
Good.
Any further questions from members of the press?
Good afternoon, Mr. Pintard.
Good afternoon, sir.
Devontae here from Eyewitness News. My first question is actually in regards to naturalization. You just mentioned that the Free National Movement government would support the passing of citizenship from both parents. Would this administration also support lowering the age of naturalization? Currently, it stands at 18 years old.
We have had no discussion in terms of lowering the age within the party. No.
No? Okay. Second question. As it relates to the Davis administration's plans or what they have done in terms of shanty towns and demolishing them, there's been concerns from those that live in these shanty towns that they have nowhere to go. Has your administration begin to think about that, how do you plan to address that?
Some of you would recall that in North Andros, there was an issue where we found fecal matter in the water table. And we went in using different government agencies, Environmental Health, Ministry of National Security, to a limited extent, immigration, water and sewage, etc. Once we determined where that was coming from, and we determined that it was unregulated development, we followed the law. We spoke to the Attorney General. We got all of the requirements to address the irregular or unregulated development. We wrote individuals. We posted the notices. We held a community town meeting. Before we were kicked out of office, those persons who occupied those communities began to reach out to us, wanting either an extension or to purchase the land that they were on, and the extension was so that they could move. We believe that many of these communities, if we were to be diligent and vigilant and indicate to them, this is what is required, you have X amount of time that you ought to, again, make provisions to move, then many persons will begin to make preparation. We didn't play the optics game by going in the press. Through Ministry of Agriculture, we did it quietly, but we thought we were effective. In the shanty towns, according to the report the FNM did, and I thought it was a comprehensive report, we found out that a number of those communities have Bahamians located in it. So a part of the responsibility of the government, in my view, is to work with those persons who are in those communities in order for them to find housing. We are committed to a housing revolution under the Free National Movement. We're not interested in keeping one group of people in one location. If you are here legitimately, you are gainfully employed, you are interested in owning housing, we are interested in helping to provide for all Bahamians, or whether you were born a Bahamian or you became a Bahamian, housing. And so we do not understand that for a government that says they are going to explode housing possibilities, why that has not been a part of the discussion, that as you demolish, you also seek to, again, say to people, here are all these opportunities that are available for you to find housing elsewhere. We also say to the international organizations, because some of them carry on as if the Bahamas has unlimited resources. We're saying for the international agencies, work with us as we seek to regulate these unregulated communities. And in some cases, there's temporary housing that some of the international agencies, in partnership with churches and other groups in the Bahamas, who can assist Bahamians of natural birth or Bahamians otherwise who are now residing in those communities. So there are a number of solutions we believe are possible, and we certainly don't understand why the government isn't pursuing those opportunities.
So you also called for a moratorium on citizenship and permanent residency, granting those.
No, we did not. We're saying the problem is so egregious that was a part of our discussion. But we believe that there are many legitimate cases in the backlog, and it would not be fair to prevent those applications from continuing to be processed. So that's the point that we made. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Are there any further questions? Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Amaya Moss. I'm from ZNS.
Good afternoon.
So you mentioned penalizing Bahamians who harbor illegal immigrants. My question to you is, what specific penalties does your administration plan on implementing, which will bring different results from previous administrations to eradicate this issue?
I mean, we have an opportunity to lay out in detail the range of penalties. What we're saying is that they will be substantially more significant than they are right now. That's the point that we're making. Yeah.
One more question, Mr. Pintard. In reference to your plan that you plan
I'm
on
sorry,
implementing.
please start again for me. I didn't hear you.
Yes, sir. In reference to the action that you plan on putting into motion to eradicate the immigration issue that we have, how soon can you give the public right now, like an estimate time as to when you plan on putting this into motion when you arrive in office?
Okay. So let's begin by saying I think one step in the right direction for Bahamians, if they wish to resolve this issue, is to get rid of a government that's not committed to doing it, right? And we don't believe they're committed. So, one moment. So a select committee is something that we would appoint within the first few sittings of Parliament. Once we've gone to Parliament, we call for a select committee. And just to make this point, policy makers and the people we appoint, in my view, are not the only experts in the country. And so we thought that this was a non-controversial issue to say, let's put in place a select committee. You could interview anyone that you wish. You could call for anyone. And we did not understand why the government would not support this. The truth is, Bahamians don't trust no particular administration on the immigration issues. They're fatigued, they're tired. They don't even trust the other people who've never been in government, right? Because they squatting online too, right? So again, one way to restore trust is to say to the people who don't trust you, we want you to also serve on these committees in order to help us get a handle on what is the issue that affects all of us. So we can do that right away. Sorry. The second thing is some of the cases we highlighted. When we first read it, it seemed just preposterous, right? Imagine somebody, you just deported them, so presumably they're on a blacklist or whatever color list, but they ain't supposed to come back. And they end up back in the country. How is it possible if you have their name that they can get status, they could get a work permit or permanent residency, etc.? So one of the things we could do shortly after coming to government, we have a sense of who some of the people are who signed off on that. They have to answer some questions. Why did you sign off on it? Yeah.
When it comes to non-natural citizens that stay beyond their allotted time, how do you plan on eliminating that issue? Who stay beyond the time period that they're supposed to stay?
I think the law already speaks to that. The law already has provisions that if you stay beyond the time, there are different penalties for that. You get deported, you're fined. There's a host of things. One of the examples I mentioned earlier was a minister. Imagine a group of persons are arrested. They have they refuse to produce documentation. It was then discovered that some of those persons had been in the country illegally for 6 months up to a year. Those government officials are duty-bound to explain to the public that if somebody had stayed an entire year over the allotted time, what was the basis on which you regulated them in a matter of less than a week or two in order for them to be sorted out? And why was there no penalty for them or the persons who were responsible for bringing them and maintaining them in the country? You can't clean up the system if the same players over and over, they remain in the system and wield influence. That's why shuffling a cabinet sometimes does not give you the desired impact, because you're moving a bad actor from one location to another to create new transgressions.
So, Mr. Pintard, during your address, you also mentioned that Bahamians allegedly involved in human trafficking will feel the full brunt of the law. If the problem is so severe, why do you think the current Davis administration is not dealing with it?
Could we have, can we have ZNS do a survey on that? No, I'd be interested in hearing what the Bahamian people think. We said two things. We said two things. That when this administration fails to act, it leaves us to wonder if, one, it is of political benefit to them. Two, is it of personal benefit to the group of consultants that associated with them? Or three, are they incompetent? Either one of those answers does not help them, but it should help the public know that they are unsuitable to lead the country. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.